Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, for coming out in these times. It's a lot to ask. Everyone in here can say that they love their parents and their parents are the best. And I mean, maybe some of you are, don't think that. But for the most part, most people would be quick to say, I had the best father, or I had the best mother. And I believe every one of you, But it was truly different with Sterling. And it's dawned on me as this awful few days have progressed, how shockingly different it is with him. I have people that I personally haven't talked to in 30 years that are putting stuff on Facebook that, like, they're not even, it's not towards me, it's like I'm not tagged in it or anything. They're grieving, A friend of mine put on that I haven't talked to in 30 years, and I never hung out with. I was on his Little League baseball team. Little League, like 4th grade, 5th grade. The Indians. I didn't even remember the name of the team, And all of a sudden, this guy puts on, I'm really hurting today. A legend of a man has passed away. And nothing will ever be the same. And I'm paraphrasing here, but not really. Like, it's pretty dead on what he was saying. This man talked to us with such passion for the sport, such knowledge for the sport. And even further, I know that in his teenage, when his son and daughter were in their teenage years, he really had his hands full with their crazy daughter. He didn't say that, but I know he was thinking that. But he did say throughout their teenage year, his kids were wild, throughout their teenage years, and he always was there to give advice. And he always admired from afar this stoic, incredible man who always knew what to say. And then another one, a guy came here today earlier, I think he left already, Tom, who was a good friend of mine, and time marches on, we haven't seen each other for a while. He said to me, in 92 or 3, when I graduated, there was the year Tom graduated, he said, and between us, Tom didn't graduate. He was supposed to graduate, but he didn't. And he and I went down to Ocean City, and we were awaiting the week. And my parents came down. And Tom was beside himself with upset because he failed his senior year of high school. He was going to have to go back and, that kind of stuff. And every adult in the world was just like, what? Who fails this? That kind of stuff. And he said to me yesterday, he said, every adult in my life was so down on me. He said, and your father came in and looked at me and said, hey, buddy, tomorrow's the first day of the rest of your life. These things happen, and it's going to be fine. And he said, and that's exactly what I needed to hear at that moment, And that was 1993. But the point is that Dad affected everyone that way. Like, every single person that we know and that we don't know has a Sterling story. And it's like, that's different, that's special. It's like, that takes, a special person. Some of Dad's wisdoms, when I was coming through the clutches of having a sister that was mired in evil. Of course I'm kidding. He was the first to say to me, son, 90% of life, no, he'd say 10% of life is what happens to you. 90% is how you react to it and deal with it. And he'd say, think about that. 10%, that's all you have to navigate. 90% of life is figuring out how to deal with that. Huge. Never heard that before, never occurred to me, nothing. He would say stuff like, tomorrow's the first day of the rest of your life. Seems, reasonable, but you just never think about that kind of stuff. But he had all these strange little sayings that really mattered to a lot of different people. He was not wealthy his whole life. There was a time in his life where, we were working, rocking, normal everything, and then Dad got elevated into a different realm of wealth, but he didn't change. And that's a huge testament to his character. He never, the elitism, if you will, of that kind of vibe never came upon him. He would shake hands with every working man he met. Never, would pull me to the side and be like, hey, don't be a jerk to, so-and-so, that kind of thing. And that took a lot of character, And one other thing that Dad led the charge with brilliantly that, you just don't think about in hindsight is, you guys all, not all of you, but a lot of you are older and you grew up during Jim Crow South, segregation type stuff, racial epithets, all that nonsense. Well, my son, I married my sweetheart Paige, and my son was mixed, and he didn't even, not that he ever would, but it's, you have that kind of vibe. You don't know how the old guard are going to react to, anything. And it didn't even, nothing mattered to him. He immediately saw Caleb and was like, oh, man, I love that boy. What a badass. Sorry. But, and that's character, especially before, it was, officially, it was just, it showed a lot of forethought. And then he did the same thing with my sister, and her integrated, race of family, and everybody's, rocking, and all of a sudden we're a rainbow family. and he doesn't even blink an eye, And I mean, it is funny, but like, that takes guts, especially if you come from the old guard, It's huge. I mean, Padaletti's still sketchy, but, I think we all know that. But he'll come around. In these past few years, things have been rough for him. He wasn't in the best shape. We didn't expect this soon, hands down. And, but, one last thing I want to say, that there's a lot of deeds that my father did that I won't say because it's just too private, but there's a lot of deeds that he did for people that I wish, I could say, because it's just shocking. He never judged anybody. He loved very hard. He was very huge on loyalty and family and humor and grace. And he was a badass. I mean, he was downright intimidating when he wanted to be, but that's how badass he was. He was intimidating, but you didn't care. Like, every single one of my people, every single one of my friends, every single person I know would be like, hey, is Sterl coming down? When Julie would have keg parties on school nights. On school nights when I was just trying to sleep. They would all be like, hey, is Sterling coming down? And some people who didn't know would be like, who's Sterling? And they'd be like, that's their parent, that's their dad. And they'd be like, well, why do we want him down here? And everyone would be like, oh, well, you don't know. You don't know Sterling. Like, you know, we want him to come down, you know. I mean, that's big time, you know. He was wonderful to my wife and my sister and all of you. And I love him very much. And, you know, so in the past few years, he was slowing down a lot. And I know a lot of you are like, where did old Sterling go? He dropped, you know, he does not come around anymore. And it's not that he didn't want to. It's not that he didn't miss everybody. But that light that made him so powerful and boisterous in the room, he couldn't wield it anymore. He just couldn't physically wield it. And that mattered to him, you know. He didn't want to be that guy that shows up and everyone's like, hey, Sterling, let me pull up a seat for you, and you know. And then when he leaves, then be like, man, wow, you know. He didn't want that at all. He wanted your guys' memories to be him as the strongest guy I've ever known, the wisest guy I've ever known, the funniest guy I've ever known, and the best father and husband I've ever known, and that's it, you know. And so I love you all, and we all love Big Sterling, and you know. And Julie's coming around, you know, she's doing better. And, you know, I love you all, and I appreciate you all.